So over the last couple of months, I've had a number of conversations with clients and with realtor partners asking the question, are we in for another 2008 situation and a possible decline in housing prices? And the simple answer, I think, is no, but let's look at the facts. So on the screen, you'll see a graph that shows recessions and housing demand over a time period from 1960 to current. And each of the dark bars indicate where recessions have taken place, and the white line indicates housing demand. And if you'll notice that in each and every instance where we've had a recession, housing demand has increased again and again. For those of you who are looking ahead and seeing, well, look, but what about 2008, where there's this massive drop off in housing demand at the same time as the recession? Some are of the opinion that the recession caused the housing bubble, but in reality, it was the other way around. And let's look at why rather. So, widely available, easy credit terms, speculation in the market, oversupply of housing via construction completions, and simply not enough demand via household formation. So let's talk about household formation. When we look at a population chart like this is showing U.S. births by year since 1928. Here in the United States, we begin to form households around age 33. And when you look at this, that 33-year-olds in 2006, born in 1973, what happened after that? The population curve fell off for the next several years, right? And so when you think about construction starts and completions, there were more completions in the history of completions in 2006 at the same time that we had this massive drop off in household formations, right? So that mismatch continued for a few years, right? So now we fast forward age 33 in the year 2023. Those folks were born in 1990. You see the population curve is increasing considerably over the last several years, right? And so we have this huge spike of household formations due to the increase in births in 1990. 33 years later, typically we would have a huge demand for houses because, again, we start to think about forming households and buying homes and settling down around age 33 here in the United States, right? And again, if you look at what's going on in terms of these household formations, the strengthening of them over the last several years, and take a look at housing starts or completions rather, not keeping up with demand, not keeping up with the potential demand over the last several years, right? So that's a huge issue. Another factor was vacancies. Again, going back to what happened in the 2008 housing crisis, for 25 years prior to that, vacancies were relatively stable, right? And so what happens in 2005 is vacancies start to take off. And again, why? Because, had we been paying attention to the demographics that I just mentioned, we would have seen that mismatch in vacancy rates, and then, potentially would have made different choices, right? But those of us that were in the market speculating, buying houses for rental properties, et cetera, when those vacancy rates go up rather, someone has to make those mortgage payments. And so what winds up happening is that you want to cut your losses. Someone's got to pay those costs. How do you cut your losses? You sell your house. You bring a bunch of houses to market at the same time. The potential exists that prices are going to soften or drop, right? But what's happening today, right? Look at the chart. Vacancy rates are at all-time lows, historic lows, right? So going into the next slide, again, 2007 existing inventory. We had about 4 million houses on the market. Today, about a quarter of that, right? And we have 30 more million people in the United States today. So the real story behind existing home inventory, it goes deeper, right? So there's about 1.1 million homes in inventory, existing homes in inventory today. But about 400,000 of those are under contract or off market. So active listings that are like available for purchase, 737,000, right? 737,000. Taking a look at the next slide, that's about half of what was available just about 5 years ago, right? And again, remember, there's 30 million more people in the United States. Pretty significant mismatch. So people want to talk about, price appreciation over the last couple of years, almost 40%, with prices up in 20 and 21. It doesn't necessarily mean that there's a crash ahead. And in fact, when you look at the last 81 years, 73 out of 81 years, we've had appreciation, positive appreciation, right? So if you look at history, 1943 through 1947, prices were up a compounded 118%, and then went higher for 43 years straight, right? Even when you take into consideration the period of 74 through 79, where prices were up a compounded 93%, prices went higher for another 10 years before going down in 1990, and that was just by 1%. Then another 14 consecutive positive years of appreciation. Everyone wants to focus on 07 through 2011, though. And the reality is, that remember, we had a huge amount of inventory in 2007 versus where we are today, right? We're about 25% of what we had available to us in 2007, and 30 million more people, right? Remember, I said to somebody the other day, 28 million people in the United States want to buy a house in the next 12 months, right? If we have 737,000 houses available and active, and even if only a fraction of those 28 million people were pre-approved, qualified, and capable of making a purchase, we still don't have enough inventory to go around. So I think it's a strong case for price appreciation and for prices to remain stable moving forward. Again, look at the demographic information, the inventory information, and then importantly, when we think about the lending standards that went on in that time frame of the run up to the housing crisis, was really lax. Lending standards were much lower than they are today. Today we have fully documented loans. You got to have a job, you got to have income that's stable, you have to have decent credit, etc. The days of a 580 credit score and no income, no job, no assets, sign on the dotted line, long gone. Here's some more support for home price appreciation. If we look at the top 5 home price appreciation reports in the United States today, home prices have only gone up each month this year, and year over year at least 6% or higher, right? We're on pace for about a 6% increase in property values in 2023. So you might say, well, what was it like back then? So if we look at the bottom, in 2012, February of 2012, versus the next 12 months, 8% appreciation over the next 12 months after that bottom, even with that 2.4 million units of inventory, right? Remember, now we have half that number, right? So the last time the market bottomed out was February of 2012. But if we look again, the home prices appreciated 8% in the next 12 months, and that was with just those 2.4 million homes available. We look today, we have about a million, and really it's less, folks, right? It's less because of, actives versus pendings. It's about half, right? Or less. So I'm thinking about this in a different way. With home price appreciation currently averaging about 6% among the top 5 home appreciation price reports. This means that a median price home here in the Bay Area that's pricing at about $1.3 million would see an average increase in appreciation of about $80,000 in the next 12 months. Again, pretty strong argument for us being in a pretty strong and stable price market for homes today. Reach out if you want to learn more. I'm happy to talk to you.